Restore Our Community Coalition salutes Clarke Eaton, visionary business owner, construction manager, and community builder. Having grown up in Buffalo, New York, Mr. Eaton could see that things could be better than they actually were. Mr. Eaton's daughter, Tanya Eaton Barnett, reflects on her father's vision.
It was a vision. That vision he had, if we're to come to pass, at least he saw before he left here. He saw that other people bought into that idea.
So I'm thinking we can take pictures of Hurdle, like this mentioned, Elmwood Avenue, and then show it to the community. I said, don't you want our neighborhood to look like this?
Sure.
And if that's the case, this is what we have to do. We have to educate the public.
Mr. Eaton was one of the first people to raise a red flag at the beginning of the construction of the Kensington Expressway in the early 50s. The construction of this expressway was part of a federal movement to build more highways across America. Unfortunately, with the building of these highways, often communities were destroyed. Most of those communities were communities of color. Architect Robert Coles knew immediately when the plans were revealed about building the Kensington Expressway that this would be the beginning of the downfall not only of the Hamlin Park community, but also the entire east side of Buffalo. In fact, Mr. Robert Coles was so disturbed by the prospect of a highway cutting straight through his front yard that he immediately changed the plans for the design of his home at 321 Humboldt Parkway. Mr. Coles then designed his home with the backyard facing the expressway, while the front yard was what would be considered in line with the backyards of the other homes along Humboldt Parkway. In the early 50s, just as a group of middle-class, educated African Americans were moving into the Hamlin Park community, the construction of the Kensington Expressway began.
His vision, it almost makes you want to cry because it's actually happening.
Clarke's idea, which I immediately jumped on with him, was to try and figure out a way to cover it, which made eminently good sense. So he's been on this, I think we had our first conversation in the early 70s.
Wow.
Really. I mean, I had met Clarke at City Hall because he was working, I don't know who he was working with. But
He was Public Works.
Right, Public Works, right. And I was doing work with Public Works. So we talked about this many times and we swore to each other, somehow Clarke, we'll get this done. And so it sort of languished for a long time and then it's come back and now we have Rock. And it's, I think, probably one of the most important, from an artistic and cultural and economic initiative, it's probably the most important thing we're doing in the city.
His grandmother was the one who was raising him. His grandfather got sick when he was like 8 years old, so she couldn't take care of my father the way she thought she, could have done if her husband hadn't got sick. He grew up in the west side of Buffalo. During those days, it was all Italian. So he actually grew up in an Italian neighborhood. And his friends were like the Gambino family.
2 years I worked for the state labor department. And my job was to monitor construction sites. And I had 8 counties. And I was watching the transportation group. They didn't like me in it because I was from a different agency and overseeing to make sure they hired minorities. But I got a chance then to see how construction went. And I studied on my own what took place. And that's why I say at that $500 million deal, I don't buy it.
If you look at Republic Steel, he was employed there, I believe 9 years is what I want to say. But what my father did was he had a picket sign. And what he wanted out of this picket sign to help it to increase, to help start off having minorities in the management capacity. And he would take his poster and he would take it like 20 minutes time, before work started. And he would like picket Republic Steel. Then he picketed Bethlehem Steel, and then Ford Motor Company. And he did this as an individual. There was no one else with him to do it. He helped so many people, and he enjoyed doing it, but he never boasted. He was humble about it, Like I said, Robert has taken over, and it's funny how God works, because he had Robert had already finished school, and he had Robert go with him to different meetings, go with this, that, for about 5 years. And then my father said, Robert, would you mind if I just retired? And Robert was like, no, Granddaddy, you've done so much. Go ahead and retire. So he had like five good years of just, when I get up, that kind of thing. He was not only a man with a vision, but he was a man who put things into action. He kept saying, see, Tanya, they can do it like this, and they can do it like that. But what he was saying, it can't be done. Recover the 33. So it's actually going to end up being like a tunnel, and our community wouldn't be as split up as it is. And his vision was a part of something that had already happened, something that already was beautiful, and it was ripped away, literally ripped away. Life is like a chess game, and in that, you never let your opponent know what your next move is.